on the Zoom call though?
You're good to go. We're already live.
I can't see the faces. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. We have George, Jen, John, and Ruben online.
Okay.
So we're recording.
Did you say, and John's not on? Oh, there he is.
John's on.
There he is. Okay,
Yeah.
good. All right, so call to order. Bob, do you want to sit on this side so they're not,
I don't mind doing that at all.
so they're not looking at the back of your head?
Yeah. Sounds like a plan.
Good strategery. Okay, so I got your old agenda, Max, from a couple of meetings ago, so I'm going to follow that. So we do have a quorum. So hooray.
Nice to see John Martin here too.
And I don't think we have any adjustments to the agenda. We actually do have a citizen with us. So this is my neighbor, John. And John, what's your- Nicole. So it's a good Italian name. And John's interested in joining the EDC. So what we'd like to do is have you give us a little background about moving to Wilderborough and
Sure.
stuff like that.
I moved here about 4 years ago with my 5-year-old going on 6-year-old daughter now. Moved up from the Portsmouth area of New Hampshire. I was kind of getting priced out of the market as far as real estate. So it was a good time to move. And I moved up here at the time. I was self-employed and I am currently working for Dead River, but maybe going back self-employed at some point here in the future. I'm really interested in what's going on with the town. I've been here, like I said, 4 years and just kind of getting settled in and would like to be a little bit more involved. So for now,
When you're self-employed, what do you employ yourself to do?
construction, service work, a lot of maintenance. Between me, you, and the wall, essentially handyman, but I despise the handyman connotation. Usually goes along with negative aspects, and I try to bring a more professional nature to it. So I think it's a pretty good calling these days. So I think I'm gonna probably move back into that genre.
Good.
All right, and so, and the process is that if, sit through the meeting, comment at will. If you like the idea of joining, then you actually fill out a application form,
Okay.
and then the select board will actually, I don't think.
Well, we interview you.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
There'll be an interview,
Yeah.
which is almost going on right now.
Yeah, basically it is.
And then.
Well, you can't say no. I live next to Jan.
Yeah,
I've known him forever.
That's right.
So you kind of trapped now.
Yeah, no, hey, I've got no reservation. It's hard to get people to come to meetings, so anybody
Jan was saying,
volunteering
yeah.
is like treasure.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And, okay. So I looked at my email before I left and I didn't see the minutes, so I'm guessing they didn't get done.
No minutes.
So we're gonna kick the minutes down the road 1 month for approval.
Okay.
And that takes us to the chair report. And so I do have some numbers for the food pantry. If I can find it here, there it is. Okay, so we did have our food pantry distribution today. So this isn't really EDC, but it's
Okay.
kind of updating. So we also, John gives us an update on COVID, and so we kind of keep the town kind of up to date on things that are going on.
Okay.
So believe it or not, today, 150 households.
That's a record.
It's a record, a new record.
Wow.
It's a record over a record, if you will.
Did you just say it was
just keep-
146 the other day as well? It bumped up already.
Yeah, it's bumped up the rate to 150. 11 new households, 10 from Wilderborough, 1 from Bremen, 10 households from Bremen and 4 from Nobleboro. And total, so that's households, total people, 403. And that's made up of 121 children, 210 adults, and 72 seniors. So it's, people were wondering if we'd see a decline at all at the food pantry. And the reality is that no, we've actually continued to see an increase.
Wow.
Yeah. Any questions on any of that?
Does the food pantry serve Friendship?
We don't. Friendship
No,
actually
okay.
has their own.
Okay, I saw an article about Friendship and Cushing getting like a new food pantry thing, and I blanked for a minute because I know you serve other towns. I just didn't know.
Yeah,
Friendship.
Nobleboro and Bremen and Wilderborough, obviously.
They do benefit from the transfer station bottle recycling thing.
Yeah, and that's just it. I don't know where it overlaps
Right.
most of the time.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
Okay. And that's probably the only thing I really have to report on. John, can you give us an update on the COVID numbers?
Sure thing. Just calling up the most recent email so that I have accurate information here. This past week, we had a drop in testing, mostly because there was the holiday involved in the testing, so it was one less day. We conducted 309 tests compared to 430 the previous week, 19 positives for a 6.15 percentage. From what I understand from talking to our docs, the 5% number is the magic number in terms of having a low community spread. So we're getting closer to that. Just in comparison to a couple weeks ago, we were doing almost 500 tests, and the positivity rate was close to 12%. So we've seen a little bit of a drop, which is good. The big news from our area this week is that the standalone testing clinic that we had at the Belvedere Road Aerosmith building has closed, and all the testing has moved back into primary care offices. So if you need a test, call your primary care provider and they'll arrange one for you. The move went very smooth and well, and our practices are well set up to conduct those tests moving forward. So it's been fair, I'd say relatively balanced over the last 4 or 5 weeks in terms of percentages, though this week we saw a nice drop. Been running anywhere from percentage of positives from 9.6 to 11.3%. So the 6.15 is good. The only caveat, obviously, is 1 day less testing. So the numbers feel like they're moving in the right direction. And I think that this is sort of an editorial, non-medical opinion. So I'll start with that. But I think people are really trying to get used to working in an environment where COVID-19 testing and positives are going to be part of everyday healthcare.
Yeah.
So we recognize that it's not going to go away, and it's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with. And we expect that there will be continuous improvement in the vaccine, but we don't know anything for sure as to what's coming down the road for, say, the fall in terms of vaccination. So
Is it generally true that the cases aren't as severe?
So in this particular variant, if you've been fully vaccinated and boosted, the severity of your cases is far less. If you've gotten some protection, again, there's a moderate shift to them being a little bit more severe. But ultimately, yes, we're not seeing a lot of hospitalizations. We're not seeing a lot of people on ventilators, which we're very grateful for. So yes, it's been less severe for sure.
And fully vaccinated with the pre-variant vaccines that we might have gotten is still a big advantage.
It is. It is still a big advantage. And as I said earlier, my suspicion is, although I have nothing to base it on other than suspicion, is that these vaccines will evolve similar to like the influenza vaccine does every year, where there are new strains and new variants. I think the more we get to learn about this particular disease, we'll have vaccines that ramp up accordingly to fight off the new variants.
It sounds like the technology to produce the vaccines has taken major strides in the last 10 years or 5 years.
All right. Thank you, John.
Jen, can I?
You're welcome.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Bob.
John, is there any more information about the percentages of people who are getting vaccinated as opposed to those who are still not getting vaccinated?
So Maine CDC's website keeps a good track of that. They don't update it as much as they used to. Our vaccination rate in Lincoln County is relatively high compared to some of the other areas of the state. I know in Lincoln County, however, Wilderborough is one of the I don't want to say underperformers, but their rates are less than many of the other communities in Lincoln County.
All right.
Well,
Thank you.
I just
Oh.
wanted to add in my own little
ahead.
anecdote on COVID. I actually had COVID 2 weeks ago. And I'll tell you, I knew it because of how sick I was that first 2 days. And I'm fully vaccinated. I got my booster back within the 6-month period. It still was a pain.
Still kicked your butt?
It still kicked for those first 2 days. I got better, obviously.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine what it would be like if I didn't have the vaccines.
Exactly right.
I
Yeah.
hope people are listening to you,
Yeah.
you know?
Was that the Omicron variant that you had?
I
You know?
I don't know. I don't think I'd probably have to check Maine Health for what it was, but they just said they confirmed it was COVID. It was probably, I would imagine it's Omicron. If it was Delta, then that would be
I don't
horrifying.
even think that's running around anymore, is it?
Yeah,
I say
that-
running around.
Yeah, that was last summer collection.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I would imagine it was either Omicron or the new subvariant that's out there.
Is that variant B? Is that what they're calling it?
What was
now?
it, B2 or something? John, was it like, I don't know.
I don't.
I'd imagine-
I'd only be guessing at this point. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not up in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, I imagine it was Omicron.
Yeah.
We start naming them like hurricanes.
Oh, I don't want to get to that part, but no, I just wanted to get
Wow.
that bit of.
It's actually kind of good news.
Is it?
I think, yeah. I mean, you're not in the hospital.
And-
not. That's
and
true.
You're walking proof that if you get vaccinated, it's not nearly as bad as it would be if you weren't.
No,
Yeah, I
just.
think that's a fact.
That, you know,
But I will say the ultimate irony in this is that the day I was good, like after the 2-week period, that's when I finally get my free U.S. Postal Service COVID tests in the mail.
Just the double check.
I thought that was just a cruel joke that time.
All right, good.
Wait,
So
John,
while you guys were talking, I looked up the vaccination rate for Wilderborough and it's 72%, which is better than it had been. By comparison, Union is 62%, Rockport 99%, Hope 76%, Cushing 74%. So you're right in that same range, if you will, of some of those places. Other communities, down Damerscott is 99%. There's pockets in Knox and Lincoln County that are still in that red part of the map in terms of being lower than the other parts of the state.
Thanks, John. So we got a copy of the updated or the broadband survey. Do you want me to transfer to Ruben first, or
Yeah, Ruben, do you have any other broadband bits
Ruben,
of
any
information?
broadband updates?
So I don't have anything for Waldoboro specifically. A couple of weeks ago, I drove around Damerscott with Evan Goodnowski, who's sort of a counterpart. And it was eye-opening to see what was on the polls, what the tech was up there. And the advantage there was just, sitting down with a counterpart who's sort of technical and going over what infrastructure's on the polls and what the different things do. And those physical drives are very helpful, when I see new construction in Damerscott, there were patterns that I can look for in Wilderborough. The only other info I have is really everything else we're doing is waiting on this survey. I have some questions out to all the ISPs, which is the same round of questions I tend to ask. And these questions are, hey, what is your next incoming technology? And what is your cost to deploy that? So for anyone running fiber, it's, hey, what are you going to do for speeds? For Charter, it's, hey, what is DOCSIS 4.0 going to do? And I'm getting that information in case grants can be applied to any of it. It's not in support of any one vendor. It's really to be as ready as possible once this survey comes back. And that's a background task I'm generally doing. I have new questions out almost every week. And they're sort of hair splitting questions. It gets way into the weeds. Sorry, Bob, go ahead.
So I had three things I wanted to say. One is anecdotal. I just heard from someone today who has installed Starlink. They were using their phone before they got Starlink.
Yep.
And it's a different world. They're paying $110 a month for the service. And they were able to adapt an old Hughes satellite to accommodate the Starlink satellite.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah. I think they
Like one of
just,
the old TV ones?
yeah. I think they were able to get it 7 feet off the ground and just sort of hook
Oh
it
my
together.
gosh.
Anyway, huge difference in service for them, but it's pricey, $110 a month, which brings me to my second point, and that is that book that Ruben recommended by Susan Crawford called Fiber. I'm just about done with it. And I'm happy to lend it out. And I think it's in the library too. Ruben, didn't you put a copy or two in the library?
Yep. I've got 2 more copies of that and the other book that I like here at the house.
Yep.
And they are free for the taking as long as whoever takes them promises to read them.
The two things I take away from that are, one, solutions oftentimes are local. You can't depend on the state of the feds to come in and bail you out. You got to take action. And two, we're way behind in this country. Way behind. And not only in terms of distribution of the fiber, but also in terms of cost.
Yep.
People are paying $30 to $40 a month for the service you get here. Actually, the service is better in Singapore. And just as one example. And the third point is really a question, Ruben. Have you heard anything about Consolidated and their efforts to expand fiber in their network? I understand they're doing a lot of stuff in southern Maine.
So I have an answer for that, but I'm going to tie this all together because you've made your vocal points were clear, but I think you also made some other points that you might not have realized you made. So I'm gonna bundle this up in a couple of things. I'm going to start with a boilerplate. I don't have a favorite ISP. Whoever can get data to a resident is now my favorite. I don't care how it gets there, as long as it gets there. For Starlink specifically, Starlink is really neat and really innovative, but I want to caution anyone from relying on that technology as an acceptable permanent solution for everybody. Starlink is going to be great and necessary for some amount of the population, but we need to connect to everyone we can physically, so the remaining people, that as high end as that is, Starlink is still a shared medium. Starlink still disconnects for 15 seconds every 15 minutes. And even with all the neat things they do, it's not a guaranteed static speed. The next thing I can tell you for Consolidated is not just in southern Maine. They're hitting Rockland, they're talking about doing Thomaston, and they're doing business as Fidium. Which is nothing shady. And whenever you roll out a brand new piece of tech like that, it needs to be put in sort of a bubble. So Consolidated got some grants. They got a bunch of investment money in what they're doing. With that and with grants in towns, is they're going over the existing infrastructure they own and tying fiber to it and delivering it to the houses, which is really smart. They're going to retire their old copper infrastructure and they're putting their new fiber stuff in with some pretty attractive pricing. But even with that, their pricing is $35 a month for 50 meg synchronous. I think it's $50 a month for 250 meg synchronous and $70 a month for a gigabit synchronous. But that's for 2 years before it adjusts up, which is pretty normal when someone rolls something out. They're a company. They're here to make money. They've got to pay themselves back. That price would be lower if there were multiple technologies on there. So when I ask all these different questions to different ISPs, while the goal is to get everyone connected, I don't just want fiber from one company, crossing the road in front of my house. Ideally, what we would have is a community that can say, I would like Starlink, I would like Fidium, I would like Tidewater, or I would like Charter Spectrum's cable. If you can get 2 or more high quality ISPs up on the pole, that is when you get that better pricing.
Absolutely.
You will never get a grant to get one of them to do that. But if we could get, say, I always start with Tidewater because those are the local guys. And I'm not going to talk about the plans they have or the costs. I'm just going to pick them because we have residents in Wilderborough that work there. So if we got a grant to build Tidewater all through town, they would then be on the pole along with Charter. And those two companies would have to innovate and compete with each other. And the consumer is going to win. That's ultimately who's going to benefit. Any place where you only have one carrier, even as great as say Fidium is, if there's no competition, there's no reason. These other countries where the price is way lower, it's not just because it's if it's state owned or a municipal network, the prices can be lower. But in these areas, the other common factor you'll find is there's choice. If you think back to the days when you actually paid a long distance provider for telephone service, and you could choose AT&T or MCI or whoever, those prices went down because they had to compete with each other. That doesn't exist in broadband right now. Even with cable TV, the thing where people get mad at Charter. While there's other carriers, they're the only company doing what they do. So if we can get multiple carriers on fiber, that will change. That's how you make that price improve over the long term. That is several steps ahead of where we need to go.
And then Ruben also broadened the offering on the broadband service. So, more streaming TV stations, telephone lines, whatever.
Right. And that's all it's interesting. That's all separated out for ISPs. Like right now, Charter offers all these different services, right? But they make the most money on data. And what you're going to see is, if you look at a lot of these places, the best thing you can get is a company that only sells you data, only sells you broadband. And then these other things you want, whether it's TV or your communication methods, those will all be, maybe those companies sell a version of that, but you're never going to get a better product than when you buy something like this that is a standalone thing from one company. For me, I pay for Spectrum, and I'm paying about what the Starlink folks are. I pay $95 a month for a gig down by 40 up. And I do actually get those speeds. I'm getting about 1.2 gig down by about 45 megabits up. But that's all I pay them for. I just want a dumb data pipe. And then I pay for my separate streaming services. I have a VoIP line that's like $35 a month that we do for business use. That's Vonage and companies like that. And that's where I would like to get the rest of the town, whether it's a resident or a business owner for that matter. If you're a business owner and you have gigabit fiber and you need a multi-line phone system, you don't need a giant stack of copper wire coming in. You buy a bunch of things called SIP lines for $12 or $15 a month, and each one is its own phone number, and it can follow you around in your cell phone. This is how you build a business in the future. That's what we need to get those services in there.
Good. All right. You want to transfer over to the survey?
Yes.
Max?
So I believe I sent the survey out
Looking at
earlier
it.
today.
Yep.
Does anyone need a copy of it?
Yes,
Here.
please.
Let me here, I'll pass down another physical one for each hand.
So the plan is that, once you give a quick overview.
Yeah, the survey is something that was worked on by Ruben, myself, Bob, and Richard Hofsas, and the former Communications Technologies Committee. Essentially, we want to see what residents think right now of the internet services in the community. This is what's going to start with us going for planning grants and then actually seeing if we want to go for a town-wide fiber system, essentially. Because right now, a majority of the town, maybe 98% of town residents, have at least one provider that can provide what the federal standard was of 25 download, 3 upload speeds. But at the state level, they've updated that definition, I think, last year to 100 sync, pretty much 100 symmetrical, 100 up, 100 down. So, and that kind of gets Waldeboro residents down to maybe 2 areas in town. You either along the Main Street Route 1 area where LCI has their fiber and they can reach up to those speeds, or people along Old Augusta Road where, again, the same fiber line is there. So this survey is to see if residents want to go for that 100 symmetrical service, or if people are fine with what they have right now. And that's going to be what we want to see for pursuing a planning grant, essentially, so that we have the numbers to justify, hey, this is something we actually want.
So what is the overall reason you guys are looking to do this? Is it in order to bring businesses into the community that have that availability, or work at home individuals, or all the above?
Yeah, all the above,
Okay,
pretty
fair
much.
enough. Yeah.
But the biggest thing for me is business. So,
Bring a business to the
so you
community
gotta
to
have,
operate.
right, you gotta have broadband.
Yep.
You're gonna bring in a business, so, and even work at home, a lot of, if you're an engineer, architect, any of those kind of jobs,
Mhm.
you're gonna want broadband to do
Right.
your job.
Was it Sanford couple of years ago that was trying to be like the new Silicon Valley of New England? It was somewhere here in Maine, in southern Maine.
Maybe.
I believe it was Sanford. They were
Might be.
pushing real hard to up the infrastructure as far as fiber optics and internet. And I think they were too far off in the boondocks, and it kind of fell through because nobody really wanted to move to Sanford.
Well, they're in the middle of fully wiring now. That's another.
Oh, they are.
Otelco is running fiber up there. I know several people that are lined up for that, and I can't say what they do, but in my, I'm sorry, we haven't met in person. I just waved, and I don't have a webcam. But so I'm Ruben Mahar. I'm the endpoint architect for Maine Health, and I can tell you out in that area, we've got a lot of high-end stuff I can't describe specifically that's in that area because of that connectivity.
Sure.
I could also tell you, you don't need to be that high end to need that kind of upload. Does anyone here use Office 365 or
Yeah.
Google Docs? If you're backing up just your phone full of cat photos, that'll heat up 100 megs up for a couple minutes. It's not exotic like it used to be. And it's what we're going to need just to compete with our neighbors, just to keep anything from business to just regular families owning home in Wilderborough. That's going to be one of the things that you've got to compete with going forward.
Right.
And the other thing I'm going to add on to your question was, even before the pandemic, when the town did its comprehensive plan, one of the things it noted as something to pursue was expanding the fiber service.
Mhm.
I think even as a minimum, it was just expand the fiber to the industrial zone, the industrial areas in town, which would be the industrial park over at Cross Street, Winslow's Mills. And then if the town wanted to expand for a high-speed fiber network throughout the town, and then COVID happened and we all started noticing, we're doing a remote meeting right now, which never was really done beforehand.
Right.
There's still people in town who have nothing at all. So we're either spending the money just to get those few pockets served with what would be town funding, or we can go for state and federal funding to get everyone served at this point. And some people use it for telehealth. Some people have moved to Maine just so they can work from home using the same broadband capabilities. But to what you were just saying a moment ago, that's another reason we want to do the survey. And we had another member, Sonia, who's not here tonight. She asked the same thing. Do people really want this upgrade? That's what the survey is supposed to see. The majority of people who respond to it may say, we don't need any upgrades. Let's just focus on funding the small pockets that are left. But we might get people who say, yeah, let's make a town-wide fiber network that the town owns and we'll make a utility out of it. Or some people may just say, to Ruben's point, just hire LCI to have a private ISP. So there's two companies throughout the town.
It seems like if you don't get ahead at this point, it doesn't take long to fall behind. What is it? Not Murphy's Law, not Grisham's Law. It's the law where technology is supposed to double its speed every 18 months.
Moore's Law.
Moore's Law, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, with that being said, it seems like if we're not jumping ahead on this, really pushing forward, then we're just kind of getting left behind.
Yep.
Jen, I see your hand up.
Hi, I have actually a funny story that because of the COVID thing over the last couple of years, but also because of our winters and so forth, my niece had days when she couldn't attend classes in school. And it was interesting that now people are using remote classes for snow days so that they're not having to push the snow days. Of course, we haven't had a lot of snow the last couple of years, but it's an interesting side effect that's happened because of kids doing remote classes. And it saves them, saves this.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think that's great for snow days for those who have internet and the kids can learn at home. But for those who don't have internet and have kids at home on snow days, they're up a creek.
Yeah.
They got nothing.
I know.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the whole background. We
Yeah.
always love to go through the entire
How many
The
people?
plan is that the survey would get sent out
the
to,
election. Yes. George was asking a question. George?
How many, what is the number of families or homes in Waldeboro right now that have none?
We're going to find out.
We're gonna find it. I think actually the CTC did do a bit of a survey to get some feedback, and I think there's maybe 140 maybe homes that I counted. I didn't hear back from every single one, but I think there's about 140 maybe.
That's the last number that I felt like had any kind of,
Meaning.
yeah.
And that was me basing it on the maps that I got from Spectrum and LCI, well, from LCI, and then just doing some random address typing in both of their things saying, hey, yeah, we have cable here. So 140, I think, is how many it is.
Thanks.
And most of them are just outliers, not many on big public roads, except I think Store Mountain, the end of Flanders Corner, I think those, and Goshen. I think those were the big areas that were left. But anyways,
This is sort of connected and a little not connected, but Old County Road, does the town ever plan to connect the two ends of it?
Old County. Oh, with Nobleboro. I haven't heard any plans on that.
It's the Old County Road, and if you have four-wheel drive, you can go from Route 1 to Route 32.
I think that would be a question that we'd have to ask our public works director as well as Nobleborough's public works director, because I think part of the reason it's just discontinued is not that many people used it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that reminds me of the restaurant is so crowded that no one's going there anymore.
Well, I don't know the whole story behind it, but it might have just fallen and the towns decided not to bother with the maintenance of it. That might have been the whole story. I don't know the whole thing. I'm just guessing.
The two ends, I used to be able to drive through it just for the fun of it, but the two ends are both pretty good and somewhat improved, but there's a middle that's virtually impassable. Anyway, it's when we talk about where we would develop or build roads, that not to mention internet, that sort of just popped.
is that town-owned land, that road?
We have the right of way through it, but I'm pretty sure that's where the Spofford property has. That's like the Spofford property that I think Midcoast Conservancy has something on it right now, where it's pretty much tons of acres of preserved land at this point.
I think part of it's blocked at the end. Last time I was up there.
Yeah.
Service call. They've got, I don't know if it turned into private property, but there seemed to be a pseudo gateway across the road that was indicative of do not trespass.
George?
What, I guess I'm curious why, Old County Road, what does that have to do with the broadband survey?
Well, it would be a part of town that might not have it because
okay.
There's not I don't think the power lines go all the way through. As I said, it was a passable road with four-wheel drive, but I'm not even sure it's that now.
It would be like Flanders Corner Road.
Probably.
Yeah, where you've got internet at either end, but none in the middle.
Yeah, right.
All right. So
That's a really good point. And this might be something that we've had this conversation before, but it's been a while. And it was when we were talking about dig once back when we had the CTC meeting formally. Any big project, if we know a bunch of shovels are going into the ground for something, it might be worth a refresh to the various departments that would be involved in that, so we can let all the various vendors know, whether it's Tidewater or Charter or whoever. Hey, we're putting shovels in the ground. Is there anything you can take advantage of here? That might help us with something.
So
It'll also build some goodwill.
Sorry, I'll ask Public Works because if there's a reason they don't use Old County Road anymore, then that might be it, and I could just report back on the matter.
and also, are there other roads like it, maybe?
There's definitely a few like it. I think Hope Road or.
Yeah, Goshen Road.
Yeah, but those are, Goshen Road.
Yeah, they're just not used anymore. I mean, you can go in
Well, the end of
500,
Goshen.
600 feet and then you stop. You don't go any further.
And are there homes down, further down?
Well, in as far as you can go, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't,
Yeah, it depends on them. Like Hope Road, it's
Yeah.
a discontinued road that on the other end is Maple Drive. I mean, there are people who live on both of them pretty much. There's some people who live on Old County Road. There's some people who live at the end of Goshen Road. It really depends where you're looking.
All right.
So, survey, just so we're not spending too much time on it. So this is what I got back from people with their thoughts and comments. I may not have every single note and comment everyone had, but that's because there was maybe some conflict with it. Pretty much the highlighted ones are some corrected language that people suggested. And 6B, I made a correction on that one based on a comment that was made by someone on the committee, just because there was some confusion about the one patient remotely thing, what that meant. I just changed the language to say, yes, someone in this household is a medical provider that works with patients remotely. Make that a bit more simpler, I thought. George, I did get your question about question 2, and if that some people might find the definition a bit confusing or something. I don't remember the exact language you said for question 2, which is asking how knowledgeable people are on the topic of internet, broadband, and its uses. George, you're muted.
My reaction was, when I get a survey, if it's something that's hard to answer because you're not really sure what the choices are, I sometimes just stop doing the survey.
Okay.
I'm not sure of the purpose of question 2 and how you evaluate any of the answers people give because it's terribly subjective.
Yes, thank you.
Sonia believes that there should have been something in there seeing if people knew what broadband was. I mean, I'm open to what the committee says on question 2, if it needs to be amended, if it needs to be removed.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes back to Sonia's point, which is, we're all kind of internet savvy, more or less, and she represented the non-internet savvy.
Right.
I don't mean she represented, but her point was, I don't know anything about a lot of this stuff.
Right.
And so I don't think it's a bad question necessarily, just to, hopefully it comes back that 99% of the people are pretty familiar with the internet and understand how it works and what it does.
If we're going to keep it, I have a suggestion on B as in boy.
Yes. At a minimum.
At a minimum, I know the terminology and uses of internet and broadband.
Terminology.
I know the terminology and what?
And uses.
And
of-
uses.
And the rest is the same.
Yeah, yeah.
The rest is the same.
Okay.
And I also had a suggestion for the very, very, very top on the upper right. We call it a town-wide internet service.
Oh.
I call it Wilderborough.
Oh, so just to be clear, I'm going to get rid of town-wide internet survey, and it's just going to have the town's letterhead on
Oh,
top.
perfect. Okay.
I'll make a note of that.
Oh, good.
Jen's hand up was a minute ago.
Yes, Jen.
Go ahead.
Oh, I wasn't, it was my thumbs up. I
Oh,
thought
you
that
were approving
was
it.
great. Sorry, thumbs up.
And then in question number 3, we have a reference issue under no. We're talking about question number 9. You actually mean, I think, question number 10. You want people to go down to question number 10 because that refers
Yes.
to people who do not have internet service.
Okay, that is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
And in number 5, I have a suggestion regarding the language again. I would suggest something like, please rank from 1 to 4 or 5 the descriptions that tell us how your household uses the internet. Then you've got 5 possibilities, 4 definite defined possibilities and
And then-
1 other.
Right. Okay.
So that's why I say from 1 to 4 or 5, because they may not rank the other as having any meaning to them. And then I would shorten up the second one. I would just say education, comma, remote learning, comma, and researching topics online. And the one below that, I would suggest entertainment, streaming movies or shows or playing video games. Am I missing something with that use of the word streaming movies or shows?
I'm gonna ask for some clarity. We have a TV that has Roku and Peacock and all this stuff that isn't cable. In other words, you as an
No, but that's
alternative-
streaming.
That's
That's streaming.
That is in fact streaming.
that is streaming, but it's
Yes.
not just streaming movies, it's streaming everything.
Yeah,
But it's streaming movies and shows.
YouTube.
I guess what I'm saying is that it might be useful to have it be more explicit that it's the other way to get TV shows. You
what
know,
if we
it's-
put in cable TV as the first option, George? Cable TV, streaming movies or shows, or playing video games? Because if people have a cable subscription, they're gonna know.
Yeah, well, or just streaming TV instead of cable TV.
Yeah, but there's a
Streaming
difference
services.
between cable TV
And streaming, there's a, yeah,
How about movies, television shows, video games?
Yeah,
Would that,
good.
if we say television shows?
Yes.
Why don't we just say, put it in what it is, like streaming is gonna be, it's gonna be YouTube or Roku or, I mean, can we just give examples like that? Apple
The Golden
TV,
Girls.
or does it get too,
I'm worried when we get into giving specific examples, some people might not know those specific. I know Roku's become more of a standard thing with Apple TV, but I feel there's going to be some people who just say, I don't know what that is. But we give the more broad general things, movies, television shows, video games, that covers the basis for what, it's generally used for when it comes to streaming.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why are you looking for specifics of exactly what they're streaming? Does that make a difference as far as
No,
the internet, or is
no, I mean,
just looking for a general consensus on that?
for that question, it's just seeing if people use entertainment like streaming as one of their top uses.
Yeah.
Or if they use it at all. Like, if you're, well, let's take you, for example, and you go into the self-employed route. You might be using internet at home for your business, and that's probably going to take up a good chunk. But if not, then it's probably going to be on there, but it may not rank as high as the rest of your household using it for, learning remotely or having a daily call with the parents or something.
Right.
But that entertainment one is just seeing how often it's used in that household,
Yeah.
pretty much.
and it's a relative ranking, so we don't know how much time you're spending.
Mhm.
We just know you're spending more time watching streaming stuff as opposed to using it for your job or remote learning or whatever
I
else it is.
think
One
we
of
are-
one of the things under my question was, as I limp into the future here, trying to understand everything, it does appear that the kind of the trajectory is you might not even need what we now call cable if you have enough streaming. So one
Exactly,
may supersede the other.
Right.
I can shed some light on this, I think a little further. Those entertainment questions can actually let us also infer some things. Who in here has more than one TV? So for $300, you can buy a 4K TV with a Roku built in at Walmart. A single 4K stream on the low end is going to use 35 megabits of bandwidth down and 2 or 3 up. And that upload is necessary just for the TV to tell the streaming service where it is in the video. So now, let's say you do that and you have kids and you're working from home. You're very, very quickly going to come up to the point where even a basic 100 by 10 meg internet connection is necessity. Now add in working from home and sending video out on a video conference line or having a 4K video stream with your doctor. Same thing. Each stream, a good clear video stream, can eat 20 or 25 megabits up. And that whole thing will sort of snowball.
So are you saying it won't supersede cable because it'll have capacity limits?
Well, no, you're absolutely right about that. In fact, if you do you have cable boxes at home?
Yes.
So here's how a cable box works these days. There are no more analog channels. That cable box has its own separate dedicated internet connection, which is why internet speeds are where they are. As cable internet speeds have increased, it's because they've gotten rid of analog TV channels. Even Charter, you can just get that same package delivered to a Roku box. So the whole thing of picking a channel number that you're on, you're exactly right. That's going away. And that's why I talk about things like ultimately you just need a dumb data pipe that you can consume all these things through. This cable thing is on borrowed time. It's expensive for them to deliver. They don't make as much money on cable as they do broadband.
But Ruben, even Spectrum realizes that because
Oh yeah,
one of
they're
their
not
big
shy.
services is streaming.
Yeah.
Spectrum.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just to come back, John, I feel you were about to ask something and then we went off track.
Yeah, I guess after reading through this, I briefly went through it and I'm wondering, it's almost like there's a generational divide here because you look at a lot of kids under, say, 18 years old, and they're all sitting here looking at their phone.
Right.
And I don't really see any definition. This is more directed at people that are sitting home at their computer, tapping away, and that's not necessarily making up the bulk of the internet service.
I think that's why we wanted to have it say the household for the internet usage, because I don't think the high school students or even, the kids aren't going to be the ones filling out the survey. It's going to be the parents.
But we're still looking for usage.
Right.
Though.
We are still looking at the uses. And that's why it was supposed to ask about the household use of the internet. I think one early concept was splitting them up and just asking people, do you use it for this? But I think people would just say, yeah, I use it to talk. I use the internet to talk with people through FaceTime or Zoom. Yeah, I use it for education. Yeah, I use it for this. I think it was a matter of just seeing, we want to show or see what people most commonly use it for, I think is.
But even if you're a kid and you got your iPhone and you're at home, you're connected to the internet and you're still doing probably one of these things, right?
Right.
You're streaming games, you're playing games, you're streaming movies, whatever.
Yeah.
Chatting with your friends.
I honestly couldn't tell you if I'm connected to the internet through Verizon or if I'm connected to
The actual Wi-Fi.
the Wi-Fi. Yeah, it just
happens.
I can't tell you when I'm using, if I'm looking at, I'm barely on Facebook, but if I was on Facebook on my phone or Facebook on my computer, I don't think people are really paying attention to what they're using when they're on their screen.
So, and Jen,
Hand is up.
I do see. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jen.
So most people, if they've got a phone, they've got a data plan on the phone, and most people, kids included, know how much data costs. And even when it says, like, I have an unlimited data plan, with what's our US Cellular, but you can go over real easy and then they just shut you down. And so most of us have our phones set to automatically connect to Wi-Fi when we are in range of our Wi-Fi at home. And then when we leave the house, it automatically goes right back to cell service.
Right.
So the thing is that most of our kids, because I don't know about you guys, but I can't afford to keep, buying extra gig of data, even though they call it unlimited. So most people realize that, and most people have got it set up like that.
Yeah.
And
Well,
whatever.
I think if you're a young kid and you're playing video games or whatever, you don't want to be using your phone connection. You want to be using your internet connection because it'll be much faster.
Right.
Just from the 20,000 foot level, just for a second, I think one of the probably intended consequences of this survey is to kind of bring into focus to everybody that there may be a point where we're voting to commit town efforts to getting better internet. In other words, I think this survey almost ends up being a little bit of a promotional, look at all the things you can do with internet. So I think down the road, the more people think about all that the internet can do, that's only going to help future endeavors, I think, by the town.
So I wanted to get back to John when you were raising your point. So if you do see an issue with question 5 and that bit for all that, is there a recommendation you have for changing the language? Or even splitting it back up so that we're asking just about, does your household do this, your household do this, or even saying, does your household do this so much, or?
No, I still think I'm still working through, like I said, if somebody's, and thanks for clarifying, John, about the having they go directly
Swaps,
to your,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. At 44 years old, I should be well aware of this, but I am apparently not. But I'm still trying to figure out like how this is. I'm just gonna sit back and think about it for a while, and I'll get back to you.
Okay. So while that's happening, we can just go through the rest of the survey and
Yep.
see if
let's do it.
anyone has any final thoughts, really. So,
We've
So-
done through number 5.
yes. Number,
Is everybody okay with those suggested?
yes. So other than the notes that were just made, is there any other changes for anything that goes from the purpose statement all the way down to question 5? Any other changes?
None here.
You're there, Ruben. Not hearing anything. So we'll move on. Question 6, as I mentioned, answer 6B is amended just to say someone in this household is a medical provider that works with patients remotely, just so we can get both ends of this for telehealth providers.
Could I make a comment on 6 as well?
Yes.
Just to simplify the language in the question.
Mhm.
I would suggest, do you or does someone else at your location use your internet service to communicate with doctors and other health providers?
Okay.
That just localizes it.
Okay. Any other notes for question 6? Okay. Question 7, how much do you pay for internet service? Hearing none.
So
Question,
if I pay $99.99.
don't do this to me, Bob. I swear it's getting to 8 o'clock.
I'll choose B.
I would choose B.
I would, yeah.
Question 8, is your internet service bundled with other services?
What are the other services you could bundle your internet service with other than streaming or phone?
Other than TV and phone?
Not TV, not cable TV.
Well, that would be, but they just Consolidated just did a bundle of internet and cable for $44 a piece or something.
And that's why I'm just leaving the et cetera, just because I don't want someone to say, oh man, I have my internet bundled with my Office 365 subscription, but I don't see anything here for that.
To your point.
It's-
Yeah,
it's
and
just a
you
broad
asked,
category.
you asked them to list it in A anyway,
And
so
my big one is cell phone. My cell phone's bundled with
mine
mine.
is 2.
Oh, is it really?
$14.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah,
That's cheap.
2 for 28.
Spectrum.
Really?
$14, yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
same here.
tomorrow.
You're limited on your data, but they have other plans, but I get like 1 gigabyte.
Did you get that?
I would
Yeah,
never
we get a
use it, which I
gigabyte.
never
Yeah, I
use.
don't think I use the gig.
Yeah, we
And then when you're home, it connects to the internet,
I really
and-
like that.
and then
aspect
you
of things.
never, and then it doesn't charge you for gigabytes. It's all free.
I think
so
I've been
all
doing
your
this
phone
thing
use at
wrong
home
the
is
whole
free.
time.
Yeah,
But the other,
$14.
the other thing is you've got
Brilliant.
LCI going
Including
right by your
I
house.
think-
You've got fiber right by your
I
house.
think,
Oh, do I really?
Yeah.
Who owns that?
LCI.
LCI?
yeah.
I'll have to look them up.
So that what I'll do for editing is later I'll just have a little banner right underneath that's promoting Charter. That says,
No.
based on that whole thing that we just went through.
Hey, they promoted LCI too.
They did at the end, so that's when I had to throw in the LCI banner at the very end. So question 8.
Good.
Take it, we'll leave it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Question 9, satisfied with your internet service? Yes. No, I am not satisfied with my current internet service because blank, and we will let the people.
That is a can of worms.
We will let the people say what they want.
Yep.
I will.
Look, I had
They've only
to,
got 2 lines.
look, I always have to do these, I always have to do these surveys for comprehensive plans. And I say, what's the one thing you don't like about the town? It's always taxes. People always just throw in the taxes. And there's nothing I can do on that one. I just say a majority of people said taxes. So work on your taxes,
Right.
apparently.
Yeah, man, paying for stuff. What a crock.
Yeah, who knew? And then question 10. Do you think that the town of Waldeboro should obtain a planning grant to advise how best to improve internet services in Waldeboro so that all internet service providers in Waldeboro meet or exceed the state of Maine standard of 100 megabits per second of upload and download speeds?
I like that question.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
highlighted too much information overcomplicates the question. Is survey seeking permission to obtain a grant or, and then this is all just either Jen
This
or
is-
Sonia. who asked
This is
about-
George, isn't it, asking this?
Well, who? Yeah, someone put in all these comments at the bottom, and I think it was Sonia. I think it was Sonia because
Oh,
this was
okay.
from her. Overcomplicates the question. Is survey seeking permission to obtain a grant, or is it to see if people are interested? It is to see if people are interested in it, so that we can then pursue the grant. Isn't the survey asking what people download speeds are currently? That's what it was originally. You may want to take question out of the survey.
I disagree with that.
Yeah, I
statement.
disagree with that too.
Yeah, and,
This is
Me
actually,
too.
this is the
The
reason
reason.
for.
and not only that, you don't need permission to apply for the grant.
No, this is more of just information for us to see if
Right.
If there's
we
support.
should be going.
If we should
for
do it. Yep.
And-
Do we ha-
and this
should
is-
we
this is
have
what I
some-
was- This is what I was referring to a couple of minutes ago. Ultimately, I think by the time you reach that last question, you are reminded that, yeah, well, we probably should.
Exactly.
So my only kind of overview question
Right.
is, do you want people to circle answers, check answers? It's not, should you have little boxes that they can X? Like, should there's, you know what I'm asking? right?
I'll know what people want. Like,
So you'll doll it up to be a nice survey when it's up.
it'll pretty much be this. Like, question 5 is the only one that really asks for rankings. I mean, if people do an X on A, they're indicating A. If people circle A, they're indicating A.
At the beginning, you could say after purpose, you could just put a parenthetical, circle answers where it's not indicated, is it?
Circle your answers.
Is there a time frame that all the companies need to reach the main standard of 100
Nope.
megabits?
The state of Maine gave the definition of broadband, and they have their grant funding from the American Rescue Plan. And I think there's going to be some from the infrastructure bill. And then they have their usual bond money, but no, the state has the goal, but it's a goal that's left up to the towns and the private internet service providers to get to.
It's a mess.
And then on the back, it printed on the back, but question 11 is just additional comments. Please use the back of the survey. That'll fit.
And it does all fit on one page once you,
I'll adjust it when I get the letterhead.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ruben, all set on all broadband issues?
Oh yeah, I'm done. I'm done talking tonight. I promise.
So
Oh,
I'm sorry, but is the intent for me to finish this up, put it on the letterhead and essentially have it printed out and distribute on election day?
yes.
yeah,
Okay. And just so everyone's clear, what that means is
Does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
There you go.
Okay, who made,
it.
Ruben?
Ruben did. I like
Okay,
making
Ruben.
motions.
Do we have what's the motion, Ruben?
I'd like to make the motion that Max go ahead and print this letterhead out with the survey for distribution on election day.
Do we have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. There you go. Done.
survey printed as amended. for election day. And what I'll do for election day is, because the surveys can't be given out before people go into the booths, I'll have to have a stack ready and it'll be placed next to the exit. And whoever's working the machines will just say, head out that way. There's some surveys there. I might even have a little sign that says internet survey for people to pick up.
So do you want them to fill it out right then and there and
No,
just take it home?
no, I'll have two sheets. One says surveys here, and then something else that says fill it out, return it to the town office whenever.
Okay. All right.
It doesn't say anywhere on it what they're supposed to do with it.
I will,
You might just say,
I'll amend that in the purpose to say,
return to town office.
okay.
You should say
And
that
I
they're
also
free.
suggest if we can get it to the absentee ballot voters who aren't going to be voting in person, I'm happy to get the envelopes, put the stamps on them and address them in person to get them out to people. As long as I can get a list of the absentee voters.
Can you give out the survey when I bring my absentee ballot into the town office?
I will have some. Well, because the town office will be open anyways, I'll leave some with the clerks so that you can ask for a ballot as you're dropping off your absentee ballot, or
Yeah.
if you're hand delivering it to them.
Right.
And to your point, Bob, I'll talk to you after the meeting about that. It might be better that it's the town sending it out.
No, I agree.
So-
It shouldn't be envelopes. I meant town envelopes,
Right.
town, whatever.
So but yeah, we'll talk about that
Okay.
after the thing
Yep.
about coordination.
Okay. I just want to get the work done. that's all.
Yep.
And you're still on deck, my friend. So this takes us to town updates,
God dang it.
planning board items.
There was a retail store up front approved for glassware, but depending on an ordinance that's going to be under town consideration next week, it might immediately have to close down because
Oh, that's the marijuana related glass.
right, there's an individual who operates the registered caregiver spot in front of the town, and our ordinance says you can't have that on the same license. The proposed ordinance says you can't have that on the same lot as a retail store. And it has a retroactive date. So if the ordinance is approved, then the retail store component would close. And that individual is aware of it. He wanted to just submit it to the planning board just in case. And, he's aware of it. And we're going to see what happens next week.
Okay.
Other than that, we have reviewed a pre-application, Muscungus Bay, that has the boat storage on Route 1. That is going to be coming back to the planning board for another boat storage unit and to have self containment units or self-storage units. So they're going to be doing quite a bit of an expansion, actually.
There's a lot of self-storage around
There sure
this
is.
area.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
quite the business.
That's why we have all those container ships coming from China to fill them.
Yeah. But I mean,
is that a symptom?
Yes.
No, I mean the storage. Is that a symptom of a housing issue?
probably not. I think it's more. It might.
Symptom of gluttony.
Yeah, people have a lot of
Kim and I
stuff.
wonder that all the time when we see a new one go up. So anyway, I promised I'd stop.
Well, this individual who's doing it, and I have the plans in the town office for their pre-application. It's not that many self-storage units. It's just a few, and they're going to have I think a boat storage building that's going to be just as big as the one they already have, pretty much. So that'll be interesting to see in the works. And they have this long-term plan of having another boat storage thing. So they're chugging along. They're moving up their plans because of how much demand they have, apparently. And
Spending money.
and there's supposedly another planning board application, but not for this month. Might be in July, might be in August. That's the planning board at least.
Okay.
Then,
The town, do you want to talk about the town warrants at all, or are we good on all that?
I can in a minute if people do want me to go over that. The only other town updates I have, we actually hosted a little, not a forum, but an information session with the Mid-Coast Council of Governments regarding hydrogen energy. There's an interesting group who's been working with Biddeford, I believe, on converting either sewer treatment or salt water into hydrogen energy. So it's very interesting. There's some potential. I think Mike Thayer on the water committee was here to listen in on it. He seemed very interested on the subject and was talking quite a bit. But it was an interesting meeting. There might be some more updates on that in the future, but I'll let you know when I have more.
Sylvania?
So the Sylvania committee didn't meet this month because there weren't too many updates. So they're all going to meet in July. I'm trying to think if there is anything on that one.
There was concern about getting that house's house flanged up.
Right.
So that
Carl Solberg, who's on the committee, is going to be talking with John Daigle and Will Pratt from Public Works on Thursday, and they're going to take a look at it. He has some experience in historic homes like that, so he's going to take a look at it and see if he can find a solution. And
A solution to put it on the market? Or?
no, putting a tarp on the roof so it doesn't take on any more water damage. There's not a massive hole from the tree when it fell on there. It's a minor one, but it did definitely cause some mold in the building. So, and I think Janet McMahon said how the Waldo Theater had a similar thing, but once it got covered, the mold pretty much
disappeared.
Disappears.
disappeared. Yeah.
Yep.
I like blue.
Just a quick kind of general information, but I noticed on my drive today that there's 2 new houses on the market on Main Street. Ted's house is on the market
Yes.
for sale. And also Ellie and Barry's house is on the market. So just FYI.
There are, just as a FYI, there's living eels up in the business park in the new eel building,
Ooh,
Oh, that's cool.
like 1 million of them, little ones.
it's finally going. That this is it. Where
Yeah, there's places you have to sterilize your feet before you go in. It's real now.
Okay.
Okay, and I have to ask you, do we know if there are Madomic elvers that are in the
I believe they probably are because she had relationships with a lot of local people.
I think that would be
true.
true. That's a terrific story. If it's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's a major undertaking, that building and their equipment inside.
And they're in the TIF district, right?
Yes,
they
yes.
are.
All right.
What are they utilizing the elves for?
They're actually, instead of shipping the elvers to Japan
Oh,
and growing them, we're actually growing them right here in Wilderborough.
Ah.
There's a business. Sorry, George, what's the business?
American unagi, which is some language for eel.
yes.
And they've made a multi-million
Is that for
dollar
sushi
investment right here in Wilderborough.
For restaurants, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
For Japanese restaurants.
that's good. to
I think
see
I heard
some
that
industry
in spite of the
coming
number
back.
of times, I've never eaten an eel, I think their very aggressive plan only gets them under 20% of the US market if they're, it's a lot of people eat eels barely.
Oh, yeah.
20%
Super
coming out
popular.
of Waldeboro?
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
that's impressive.
So,
And actually, just because we're on aquaculture, that reminds me, today I got the fish counter. So for next alewife season, we have a machine that will automatically count it to get a more accurate estimate now, which could improve the commercial harvesting.
oh, wow.
So that'll be ready for next year. We missed this season, unfortunately.
Awesome. So that's takes us to old business. We just did a American Inagi update. And we talked about the TIF. Anything new on the TIF that I don't know about? The TIF district?
I do not have any updated numbers from Daryl yet. He retired for like a weekend.
Oh, I've done that a few times myself.
Yeah. He's back and he's still updating some numbers. So I don't have anything just yet, but he's going to tell me once it's all ready.
He's not thinking of retiring, is he really?
No. Well, what happened? I don't know the whole thing. It may be
Just as long as you don't tell me he's retiring, then.
no,
move
he's
on.
not. He's not actually retiring. No.
Okay, continue then.
It's a whole long thing. Don't. Yeah.
We don't need to.
So in terms of the TIF, I don't have any updated numbers yet. I guess this is the warrant article item in case someone is curious about it. We do have a warrant article item that says that we would buy the Worcester parking lot
Yes.
through a loan from the TIF district. So John, just a quick explanation. A TIF district, tax increment financing district. The town selected 2% of all properties in town and is pretty much saying, we believe this is where a lot of growth is going to happen. So any new value gets captured and sheltered. Oh, there's Rose. Gets captured and sheltered. And we don't have that amount taken out of our estimates. Like we don't lose any of that tax revenue from those new businesses.
Yeah.
And what we do is take that and it goes towards specific projects. There's a housing TIF, so we can have money goes towards affordable housing. But what we have is an economic TIF. So we have it and it goes towards economic projects. So we put the industrial park in it. Well, anything industrial zoned in there. We put anything that's undeveloped on Route 1 on it. We put some properties in town on it. We even put the landings on it so that we can have money goes toward those. And essentially, we can do anything that's going to promote economic development. So when Worcester parking was put on the market, that was one of the things. That was one of the things that it could go towards, where essentially we paid to acquire it, so it becomes public parking.
Or whatever.
Or whatever. We could buy the property and that can be the medical arts building.
Right, or it could be a park, or it could, whatever.
As long as we have it as an economic project. That's the thing we gotta make sure we stress on that.
Is there a definition of economic project? Does it need to bring in so much revenue per year or
So
proposed revenue or?
It isn't, but you think in terms of, that's to attract people into the historic district and to spend money.
Yeah.
So that's an economic advantage.
It's a driver.
So to quickly just jump in on that, when we actually put this together, we had to list off some examples of potential projects. So this included making improvements in the downtown and I mean, public parking in the downtown so that others can then go to the businesses. That's a pretty self-explanatory one. And that's what some towns do. It was acquiring properties.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it could be like expanding sewer and water into an area that would bring in new development. Yeah.
Yeah. And it could go towards a fiber project to either the industrial park or town-wide fiber system. It could be improving Pine Street Landing or Dutch Neck Marine Park because we have shell fishermen who use those landings. Okay. There's other examples that I think some of them even include like workforce education pretty much. Like there's a wide range we can do. I can send you a copy if you're interested.
I was going to ask, is there like a town, like a synopsis of what the direction the town's trying to go in, just so I can have like a general idea?
I can send you the comprehensive plan and I'll send you the
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll send you those.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll ask the email afterwards. So, yeah. So that's just the quick update I wanted to give. Did anyone else have any questions on the warrants just because we're a week away from the election?
Looks good.
Okay.
All good. All right. And we had a note here we were talking about meeting times. I think we're just going to stick with what we have.
Yeah. Does anyone,
Anybody have an issue with 7 p.m. meetings?
Nope.
I'm good.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. That takes us to new business. So any new business? Looking around.
I'm
See
moving to my
anything?
recliner right now.
Do we want to talk about expanding sewer and water Bob, or is it too early to talk?
I
about
don't know
up the
that,
hill?
do you have anything in the works for, I mean, we talked about it up there by Moody's and now that's kind of gone by the boards because of the cost. So
That's kind of dead, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I bring up the hydrogen again, because that could be a solution where that might just be a remote location, because it does use sort of septic system. What is it? Sewage. Thank you. So that might be a solution to put it in an area where we can't expand the sewer system.
Hmm.
Like that could be something we'd want to have. That might be something we have on somewhere on Route 1 closer to the school, so that then the school can pretty much be that source.
Can we talk about broadband survey results at our next meeting? Is that too soon?
Probably will be too soon, because we'll get this out next week. And then, I mean, I like to give people maybe 2-3 weeks. And that by that time, it'll already be the meeting. And I don't know if I'm going to have enough time to put it in a presentation.
Okay.
Are there any grants that are available to us? Obviously, we've missed this first window with the election next week, but for the November election, are there any grants on the horizon that we should be looking at to get something into the November timeframe?
I think we are going to try and work on what Island Institute has for planning grants. And that's so we can have Ruben would know it better than I do. I think that's to start actually getting things put together for, well, and actually putting an RFP as well to see what interest there is from service providers. And then by November, hopefully we'll actually have someone who has a proposal that we can then go to the town and have that one vote of, what do you think of this proposal?
Okay. All right. And
I think the only other thing I have on a new business is housing tip, but it's also almost 8:30, so I don't mind kicking this later.
so I think we're going to adjourn the meeting unless somebody has any comments.
One quick one.
Go ahead,
There's a conference on Friday in the Maine Beaches Conference, I think it's called. That gets all into issues of intertidal zone and shorelines. I don't know if there's anybody, I'm going to go down to it in relation to who owns the intertidal zone. Big surprise. But they're it's like the 13th annual one, and they have all kinds of speakers about things that happen with coastlines. Anyway, if anybody's interested, email me and I'll send you how to register.
Where did you say that was, George?
It's almost to the New Hampshire border,
Okay.
but it's an all-day thing down there.
All right. All right, we're going to be adjourned.